Hey guys, I wanted to jump on here real quick, and had a thought. Something popped up in my Facebook feed. Somebody I don't even know, I'm not even friends with or anything, but it's like a mutual friends type deal. But it popped up. I guess Facebook determined that I should see this or that I like content like this. Anyway, the person, like I said, I don't know the person, and before I go further, I'm not name dropping, okay? I'm not name dropping. This is not what this is about, okay? But I do want to address this because I think it needs to be addressed. Um, it talked about agencies, as in like first responder agencies, your employers. Talked about agencies who preach about mental health and taking care of yourself, but then the same agencies ignoring their employees who struggle with mental health and watching them, lose their battle with their mental health issues or whatever. And had a thought on that. I want to approach this from two points of view, okay? Because mental health is near and dear to my heart, in the sense of I've had my own struggles with mental health recently. My wife had struggles middle last year with her mental health. So I want to approach this from two fronts, because this specific subject about your employer, your agency, whatever you want to call it, talking about taking care of yourself and ignoring it. It happened to me. Okay, hindsight is 2020. I didn't realize what was going on at the time. Okay, and again, I'm not name dropping. I'm not going to give you the name of my employers at the time. I'm not going to give you the name of my bosses or my coworkers or anything like that. This is not that kind of video. Okay. Anyway, I was that employee who I was happy. I liked my job. I liked showing up to work. You would actually see me reading my Bible a lot of times on shift. I'd read my Bible, pray. I never cussed. I mean, never. I mean, one of my bosses told me at one point that if someone told him that I had said a curse word, he would be like, I don't believe you. I've never heard him cuss, or anything like that. I went from being this happy, good employee, I would be 15 to 30 minutes early all the time, every time. I went from being, I guess if you want to call it the picture perfect employee, to, and I was always running 5 minutes late to shift. I was irritable, agitated. I was not a pleasant person to be around. I went from not cussing to cussing, and I do mean a lot. Construction workers, sailors, you could mix the two together and they still didn't have anything on me at this point in time. Yeah, lots of cussing, lots of anger. I was not a pleasant person to be around. And in staff meetings and stuff, the guy who ran this, who ran the service I worked for, would always, talk about taking care of yourselves, reaching out if you need anything, stuff like that. But when I did a 180 and went from, happy, pleasant to be around, to, okay, yeah, this guy's a complete jerk, what's his problem? No one asked the question, what's wrong with him? Not any of my bosses, from my direct supervisors to the director of the service I worked for. None of them asked the question, hey, are you okay? What's going on? And looking back on it now, it's actually kind of interesting, because one of my bosses, he actually had issues with his mental health coming back to haunt him around the same time I started showing problems with my mental health. And even he didn't, reach out and ask, hey, are you okay? What's going on? All I got was called into the office. I got in trouble. I mean, a lot. I got my job was threatened on numerous occasions. You need to show up. You need to do better. You need to control your temper on shift. I got reprimanded a lot. And again, these are people, who said in staff meetings, hey, if you need anything, reach out. But they didn't mean it. Not any of them asked, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? None of my superiors did. Not a darn one of them did, okay? Thought I was going to cuss there, didn't you? Gotcha. Anyway, now let's approach this from another point of view. Not only did my bosses not ask anything, but my coworkers, they didn't ask the question. They didn't ask, are you okay? None of them asked if I'm okay. And these are people who dealt with me on a regular basis. I mean, the director, the assistant director, people like that, they may have saw me once in a blue moon. But my coworkers, the ones I was around daily in the shifts, the ones I was working with, on the ambulance at the time. I mean, these are people that I would be running calls with at like 1 a.m. in the morning, coming back from Rome, eating a freaking Snickers or bag of chips and just talking about life or whatnot, Not any of these people asked if I was okay. Instead they went, instead of asking if I was okay, they, complained, hey, he's being a jerk. I actually had one of my, there was an incident one morning when I was getting off, and it was a rough shift. I mean, a rough shift. I'm not going to go into details, but it was a bad shift. And I lost it. I mean, I just absolutely lost it. My relief wasn't there. It was 8 o'clock. Nobody was at work, and a tone dropped, and I just went ballistic. And again, instead of someone asking, hey, bro, like, what's going on? What caused you to react to the extent that you did? I got told that I was offensive, that one more incident like that, and I was gone, and that I had to do better. Basically, I had to do better. Again, nobody from my superiors to my coworkers asked, are you okay? And there's a stigma in, any kind of public safety, first responder type job, where, we don't talk about mental health, we keep it inside. It goes beyond that. There's a complete lack of regard for mental health. I witnessed it at my other job, another guy. I mean, I actually looked up to this guy, and I still do look up to this guy. I think he's a heck of a medic. Again, I'm not going to mention names, but he went from the model employee to, when he left, they were glad to see him leave. And it's like, okay, I mean, it was obviously he was struggling. It was obvious he was struggling with his mental health. Why didn't you reach out to him as his employer? The people who worked with him, who saw him go from a shoo-in to be a supervisor, to move up the chain, to, dude, he's gone, thank God. Nobody asked a question. Something's got to change, because what gets me is most of the people who are in charge of us, they worked on an ambulance. They were firefighters. They were EMTs. They were paramedics on a truck, same as I am, or were, back in those days. Or same as the guy that I watched, go from, supervisor management material to a dirtbag employee, they're EMTs, they're medics, just like us. And it's like when you get, just for some reason, when you get to management, it's like you forget what it's like to be in the trenches daily. There's a cost. There's a cost to public safety, okay? There's a reason, some people call us public servants, okay? For police officers, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, military. Let's go a step further. Doctors, nurses. There's a cost for the services they provide, okay? And it usually comes, a lot of it comes in a mental toll. The majority of it is mental. A large part of it. I'd go out on a limb to say 90% of it is mental, okay? But it's not just mental. Some of it's physical. I have back problems and knee problems from years of working on an ambulance. And then on top of the issues at home. I mean, majority of us have family, wives, kids, husbands, a lot of us have a spouse and kids waiting for us at home. And when we run a bad call or whatnot and we go home, we do our best, but sometimes that stuff boils over at home and they end up becoming the recipient of, our frustrations and whatnot. And I'm not saying that's right. I try to do better. I would like to think I'm doing better here lately. But there's a cost for, going to people in their hours of need. And a good chunk of that is our mental health. And nobody cares. The people we serve with, they don't care. Our employers, management, leaders, they don't care. And when somebody goes from being the model employee like I was, I mean, I'm not saying I was a perfect employee, but if you were to look at somebody and say, hey, that's how you should act, showing up, doing your job, I can't tell you the number of times I would wash the truck by myself while my partners would, be inside binge watching a show on Netflix or something. I went from that guy to, truck's a mess, is what it is. Let's say my shift starts at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. 8:15 is good enough for me. Like I said, I went from the model employee to, hey, that guy's an awful employee. And I won't ever stop to question why. Something's got to change. Because at the end of the day, people are leaving this field in droves daily. I think back in 2023, it was something like 12,000 providers didn't renew their EMT or paramedic numbers. I don't even think we had that many students graduate that year. Like I said, this job comes at a cost. And I've said this before in private, and I'm going to say it for people to actually hear this time, because I'm going to put this video on YouTube and social media. And I really don't care how it looks. I don't care how it looks, but this needs to be addressed. The issue of mental health, something's got to give. Our employers have got to do a better job of recognizing the signs and symptoms of, somebody struggling with their mental health. We need to be proactive about it, not reactive about it. If you notice somebody struggling, you need to be proactive, and you need to, reach out to them, and beforehand, instead of afterwards when stuff's hit the fan and now you can't do anything about it. But EMTs, firefighters, paramedics, police officers, we're there for people in their time of need. We're there when in what could be the worst moment of a person's life, we show up and we try to bring a sense of calm and stabilization in that bad time. But in our bad times, we're left completely to hang out to dry. Something's got to be done about it. If you're watching this, maybe you've thought of somebody who has been acting like themselves lately. Ask, are they okay? You might change that person's life. That might be just what they needed to go reach out and get the help that they need. Because I struggled. Like I said, I struggled. No one. And I'm not just talking about from a job point of view. Nobody in my personal life. My mom, my dad, not even my wife. I love my wife, but not even she, has asked, hey, what's going on with you? It's just something that I had to struggle through myself. Are you okay? Ask the question.